Jedi Fallen Order, with the addition of some modding, becomes the ultimate Star Wars overkill experience. Just in case you thought fighting 5 Inquisitors wasn't chaotic enough, I thought I'd try fight 50. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Jedi Fallen Order's combat challenges and battle grid mode can be pushed beyond their limits into ridiculous battles that are going to test the capabilities of your PC. With the help of a program called Cheat Engine, I was able to change the initial amount of points you start with in the battle grid from 100 to 1000, or whatever number I wanted, so that I could spawn in as many enemies as possible. And I tried to push the game to its absolute limits, fighting dozens of Inquisitors, Stormtroopers, AT-STs, this one was crazier than I expected, along with Flame Troopers, Bounty Hunters, and other characters, to see just how insane Fallen Order could become. So there's a maximum of 100 squares available on the board in the battle grid mode, so first off, I thought I'd jump right into the deep end and see how I'd go fighting against 40 Inquisitor Cals, 40 versions of myself. I've currently got the game set to the Jedi Knight difficulty, and for this test, I'm not going to give myself any extra abilities like infinite health, force, or block. It's just me versus 40 Cals. At the start, a lot of the AI hung back, with only 4 Cals approaching. They hit me with the force slow ability, I jumped backwards trying to dodge their attacks, more Cals came at me, and I was defeated after only 20 seconds. Part of it, I think, is just the sheer intimidation of seeing so many Cals, so many versions of myself advancing towards me. It was a brutal defeat. So if you can't beat them yourself, then just get them to beat each other. I turned the Inquisitor Cals on one another and tried to hang back and see what happened. Just listen to this sound. One Cal came up to me, tried to attack, and then just decided to run his hand through his hair, so I pushed him back into the heap, and chaos resumed. I think the footage and sound honestly just speak for themselves here. And so far my computer wasn't doing too bad, still holding up okay without too much lag. A lot of frame drops, but it gets worse when you move closer into a group of enemies. So I moved deeper into the crowd and started noticing some of the Cals were getting low on health. What's great about this was that even the AI were attacking each other from all angles. When there's this many of them, they don't really get too much of a break from combat, and I'm glad the AI don't just kind of hang back and attack one-on-one. I started helping to thin them out, trying to target Inquisitor Cals on lower health, and it was pretty interesting to see that across the board, lots of their health was actually really similar. There were a few outliers which had avoided more damage, but most of the Cals were down to their last sliver on the health bar. And it felt like each time I turned around after fighting an enemy, there'd be a lot less of them left, just a few groups here and there. The arena was becoming a lot less dense. And then when there were just 2 of them left, one Cal ran in and finished the other one off, and then it was just him and me. Next, I wanted to go all out and really just step things up. Probably the most aggressive, powerful character in the game is the second sister. So what happens if you place 80 of her on the grid all at once and set them to only attack you? The second sister always begins by eyeing you off from a distance, and then here I was just spamming the dodge button, trying to roll away while holding my finger on the block button. It's ridiculous. She certainly doesn't hold back. Next up, I think we need a bit of a change of pace. How does 100 Stormtroopers sound? This guy thinks he's falling, or is just pretending there's something wrong with him because he knows he's about to die. But I was actually surprised by how unaggressive the Stormtroopers are. I was still playing on Jedi Knight. Maybe they'd attack more often if I put the difficulty up, but they only seem to shoot a few at a time. So satisfying performing a saber throw or a force push or just hacking away at trooper after trooper, blocking bolts back every few seconds. I wish some of the missions in the actual game had this many Stormtroopers, to be honest, like how you see all the armies of Stormtroopers lined up on the Death Star or the clone troopers, and just knowing the Stormtroopers can't do anything to stop you is what makes this so much fun. Okay, this next one I've really been eager to show you guys. I placed 40 AT-STs all side by side with no faction switched on, meaning they attack each other. And as soon as I loaded in and the first few grenades went off, it turned into total chaos. AT-STs started dropping all around me, and what was funny was that most of them actually destroyed themselves. There wasn't enough room to properly fire their grenades, and they just bounce off the AT-ST in front of them. After just over a minute, the last one fell, and I was standing in what looked like an Imperial junkyard. And the AT-ST drivers are actually glitched, which we discovered in a previous video. And even if the no factions option is switched on, they won't attack one another and will instead all gang up on you. So over the next few minutes, I made my way around the junkyard, spamming the force pull button, eliminating every last AT-ST driver hiding in the scrap heap. This was lots of fun. It was like a hunt mission. But what happens if you turn all the AT-STs on yourself? This was a challenge I wanted to properly attempt, so I switched off infinite health, force, and block, and was limited to BD1 stims and my own skills. And things didn't start off too badly. For the most part, the AT-STs really like keeping their distance, and it was only the ones at the front that would fire on me. Perhaps they learnt from their mistakes. I mainly just used force push to send their grenades back at them, and once there were a few that had been destroyed, it actually became more challenging to force push the grenades because of all the wreckage that was getting in the way. I was obviously finding it much more difficult not having infinite force as well, because if I missed a few force pushes and missed out on dealing damage, I'd be forced to retreat and dodge any incoming attacks until my force naturally regenerated. After taking down a few more walkers and using a couple of stims, I got a little impatient and thought I'd try move in and start slashing at their legs, but this was a mistake. Got too close to their explosives, and that was that. But if you have the patience to sit back and force push the explosives, I think this is a very winnable fight. I'm not always a patient gamer. Okay, let's get back into some of the boss battles. What happens when you put 40 second sisters up against one another? Like I said earlier, the second sister is the most aggressive character in the game, and it really shows here. These shockwave attacks would affect everyone in the arena. And this was actually the shortest of all the boss battles, lasting only 2 minutes before all 40 second sisters were eliminated. Brutal, but lots of fun. What about Taron Malicos, or what I like to call him, the Shirtless Exile? Malicos is a slightly less aggressive character, favoring the slow walk as he approaches his enemy, which meant this battle was probably going to go on a lot longer than the Second Sisters. It was about 15 minutes until there were only 2 Shirtless Exiles remaining, and I may have played a small role in the final 2 kills. It was pretty funny actually. Just as I threw my saber at him, he said... and then he was dead. Didn't even get a chance to finish the sentence. Okay, so one group of enemies that actually defeated Malicos in one of the previous videos I made were the Haxian Brood Bounty Hunters. So I thought, what if we take that battle and multiply it by about 30? And it was actually only a few minutes before the Shirtless Exiles had defeated almost all the bounty hunters. Better in numbers, I guess. A lot more Shirtless Exiles going around. But there you go. Out for revenge, the Malicoses defeat the last bounty hunter, then continue fighting amongst themselves. Next, I thought it'd be cool to spawn in an equal amount of the 3 bounty hunters to see which one would be the last hunter standing. In previous battles, it was the hunter with the jetpack that emerged victorious, using the advantage of distance and height to fight off the others. And right from the start, this one was crazy because of the amount of flash grenades being thrown. My screen, my whole room just kept turning white. The final 2 enemies it came down to were a jetpack bounty hunter and the big robotic mech. And these 2 were having trouble finding one another. Even after a few force pushes together, they didn't really seem to be too interested in fighting, so I finished them off myself. And I love these custom finishes, always so satisfying ending a battle like this. I thought I'd test 50 flametroopers next to see what it's like when 50 flamethrowers are all being blown at one another. Nothing that spectacular here though. It was cool seeing all the flames at once, and the troopers closer to the center were at a huge disadvantage right from the start, being fired on from all angles. Just flames going everywhere. So now for today's finale, the final thing I wanted to try out today was spawning in 100 poor little astromech droids and taking my time to practice different lightsaber moves on them. I'm sorry, I know hashtag droid lives matter, but it's just so satisfying seeing them split in half, using the saber throw and watching as a row of them all fall at once, pulling a single droid towards you. Is it really cruel though, is it? I hope you've been enjoying these Jedi Fallen Order tests and challenges. Let me know in the comments what battle scenarios you want me to try out next, and you can catch up on the other videos you might have missed here. Also, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord to stay in touch with lots more Star Wars gaming. I honestly can't wait to mess around with this again, but thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.
Stay bombastic.